And kick it off. Well, welcome. I see 107 people and climbing. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Really excited for this event. It actually came together a few months ago, or at least it got started a few months ago when Mike and Jacob and I were all at TDX. And I met Mike for the first time. We said, hey, not a lot of stuff going on in the Midwest. This is before we had a Chicago Slack chapter leader. We said, let's do something bringing the whole Midwest together, and just super excited for the number of the people that are here today, and super excited for the content that Lizzie and Alex have put together. I've had the benefit of seeing the deck. It's amazing. There's so much gold in there. So whether you're newer to Slack, you've been using it for a while, I'm sure there's going to be some stuff that you're gonna walk away from. Mike.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Fred said, big props to Fred and Jacob for kind of initiating this. And I'm so grateful for Lizzie and Alex. It's nap time for me. I've got 6 little kids, and I'm like, if it were up to me, you guys would all think I'm waterboarding people because there's like all the kids screaming during nap time. So this is really great that you guys are pulling it off. The deck looks amazing. I want to give a shout out to all of these different locations. One of the reasons why you see so many, and we invited so many people outside of Omaha and Minneapolis, is because we want to advocate for more of you guys. If you guys are passionate about Slack and you don't have a chapter, an active chapter near you, feel free to reach out to Jacob, who's on this, or get in the Slack community workspace and then talk to Jacob about whether you want to lead or if you just want to join a local chapter. Without further ado, the best part of this, Lizzie and Alex, I'll hand the baton off to you guys.
Ooh, thanks so much, Mike and Fred, for the intro. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all virtually. My name is Lizzie Moore. I am a Principal Success Manager at Slack. I help our customers in the media and communication space get the most out of their investment, help unlock productivity, and just frankly make work more enjoyable by deepening the adoption of Slack. So I love running these tips and tricks type of webinars, and really excited to be speaking with you today. I sit in San Francisco and work mostly from home, but sometimes out of the Salesforce Tower downtown San Francisco. Alex, over to you.
Thanks, Lizzie, and thanks all for joining today. Fred, Mike, Jacob, really, really excited about this. Thank you guys for setting this up. Really looking forward to being a part of this. My name's Alex Abrams. I'm based in Los Angeles, but originally from Charleston, South Carolina, and I saw some Michiganders posting. I did grad school at Michigan, so I'm a huge Wolverine fan, as you can imagine, still basking in the glory of the national championship, as you can imagine. So very happy to be here and speaking with some fellow Go Blue folks. As Lizzie said, I'm also a Principal Success Manager here at Slack. I work with the Consumer Business Services Group, which covers predominantly professional services organizations, think like your big consulting shops, as well as travel and hospitality. So really excited to be here today, and I'll hand it back over to Lizzie.
Cool. Thanks, Alex. Let's hop to the next slide, if you don't mind. Thank you. Okay, great. So there's a lot of words on this page. I will obviously not be reading them all. The too long didn't read, or TLDR version of this, is that we are constantly evolving our product at Slack. So we're evolving its capabilities. We're adding new capabilities. There's the UI can be subject to change, adding new features, etc. So this is a very, very long-winded way of saying that some of the stuff that we will chat through today could potentially be subject to change in the future. Cool. Just a bit of housekeeping here. So there are a lot of us on today, which is so exciting. Wanted to just call out that, and you probably already noticed this, that everyone is muted by default on this webinar. And a couple of things. So I want to encourage you to post questions throughout in the Q&A sidebar. That will be different than the chat feature. I very much encourage you to use the chat feature. Throw out any sort of reactions, excitement about the stuff that we're talking about. Maybe some tips and tricks of your own if you have anything to share. But if you have a question, you'll see at the bottom right-hand side of the screen, there's like the little Q&A button that's right before the leave button. So post your questions in there. We have Mike and Fred kind of looking at that throughout the presentation here today. We'll try to get to some answers towards the end. If there's a question that gets asked over and over, for example, we'll try to spend some time addressing any questions. It frankly just depends on the amount of time that we have. There's a lot of content to get through today, and we want to prioritize that. The other thing I wanted to just call out here, for those of you who have not ever done this or maybe are newer to Slack, we have a fabulous customer experience team here. So you can always reach out to them for any general inquiries. And then I also really wanted to highlight, this is something that I myself have bookmarked in my own browser and refer to quite often, but the Slack Help Center articles on our site are incredibly helpful. Really address basically any question that you might have regarding Slack, how it works, capabilities, different features. It is super interactive and very, very great resource to bookmark. And so we will also be following up with you all after this session with both the recording. So thank you in advance, Mike and Fred, for that, as well as some supplemental materials. And we can make sure to link the Slack Help Center so that you can add that to your bookmarks. Great. Okay, now the good stuff. So getting into the agenda today, here is our agenda for the next, let's say 45 minutes or so. Our hope is really to make this as impactful as possible. And regardless of kind of your level of familiarity or maturity with utilizing Slack as a platform, our hope is that you can walk away with some tips and tricks that might be new to you, and that will help you become more productive and efficient in how you work and communicate. So first, we're going to start and kind of ground us in talking about how to organize your Slack to optimize productivity. Lots of good tips and tricks in this section, and obviously how we organize ourselves is really crucial to kind of how we will be set up for longer term success. So we'll get into that. We'll then move into how to efficiently collaborate with distributed teams. So how do we work together better, break down silos, work better across maybe time zones, geographies, etc. Then we'll get into automations. So would it be a Slack training if we didn't talk about automations and making the most of those? This is an area of Slack personally where I am constantly evolving how I utilize our automations as well. So I'm excited to dig into this. And then lastly, we'll wrap up with how to bring other tools that you use in your day-to-day flow of work into Slack to, again, maximize your productivity. Are you sensing a theme here? So that is our agenda. And then, of course, again, if there is time for Q&A, if we do allow for that at the end, we will answer some questions as we go throughout. Cool. Over to you, Alex.
All right. Thanks, Lizzie. So first things first, as we said, we've got a ton of great features to get through and a bunch of high-powered functionality to show you, but we're actually going to start with something that's usually a little bit more under the radar, but has a big impact: organizing your Slack effectively. So first things first, one of the most common challenges we hear about from users is that Slack is too noisy, or you're unable to unplug because you're getting too many notifications. The good news is that there's a solution to help curb those notifications, let you focus when you need to focus, and unplug when you need to unplug, all while keeping your team members in the loop. So first feature we want to talk about is if you need time to focus or time away from work during the traditional work hours, you can actually pause your notifications in Slack with a simple do not disturb command. A quick /DND in the message bar will trigger this. Pausing notifications as needed will help you concentrate and get into a deep work state, or to focus on things outside of work as they're required. What is also helpful for unplugging is to set a notification schedule, and that's what we're seeing in the GIF here. So this notification schedule is for routine times when you prefer not to be notified. So for example, I set my notification schedule to be between usually 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. The messages will always be there, but it's helpful for me to be able to put my phone and computer away and focus on other things. To make this simple change, go to your preferences and make the updates based upon your work schedule and preferences. Speaking of notifications, you can also adjust your notification settings depending on the channel. These are usually set to the default of being highlighted in the workspace side, but also only notifying you when you are mentioned. This can be updated if you'd like to receive all communications, though. So for example, I get notifications every time there is activity in my team's channel or in the channels for the accounts that I manage, because I need to be up to speed on every conversation that's happening. This helps me to stay in the loop and to make sure that I don't ever miss anything. Editing channel notifications is very simple. Go on the channel name in the header, click Get Notifications and select your preference. On the flip side, there are also things that you may want to tone down the notifications, while not necessarily having the loud element of leaving a channel. This quieter alternative is called muting the channel. You are still going to be in the channel and see everything that's happening, but it eliminates the proactive notifications for that muted channel. An example at Slack would be our help channels. So perhaps I have the occasional benefits question, or I need help getting something from our tech force team. But I'm getting notifications anytime someone has a question. I can mute that channel, and now I would only receive notification if I was specifically mentioned or someone commented on a thread that I've already commented on. This helps to organize and keep things a little bit quieter for you. Another great way to keep yourself organized and working efficiently is to organize your workspace. This is one of the biggest unlocks in my opinion. So if you have one takeaway from this section, this is it. So taking a look at what we see on the screen here, you'll notice that we've organized your channels and DMs into specific accounts, tasks, or other shared contexts. Think of these like folders within your email inbox, but within Slack. This process helps you to quickly find things and to also prioritize your work by keeping specific sections at the top of your sidebar where you can see them and interact with them. To do this, right-click on a channel or DM, select Move, which is down near the bottom, and then select the section you want to create, you want to add it to, or you can create a net new section. Full disclosure, Lizzie and I are both slightly anal about how we manage these things. So whenever we join a new channel or DM starts, it's getting moved into one of those sections ASAP. Taking a little bit to the left, you'll see the sidebar. This has a treasure trove of information that you can quickly access. One example is the activity button, which shows all the various interactions that you've had in your workspace. So think mentions, threads, reactions, all forms of engagement that are occurring that involve you on Slack. Go here to get a quick look at everything, and you can also open up those specific notifications if you need to interact with them further. One of my favorite features personally is the later flag. We've all been in situations where we're too busy at the moment, but need to mark something as important to read in the near future, or we want to keep something bookmarked for future reference because it will come in handy at a later date. That's the power of the later button. It's incredibly simple, but it keeps all of those flagged items in one place, and you can go through them at your later convenience. Think of them like a bookmark almost if you're using the traditional web browsers. For other major features that are within Slack, like canvases, workflows, and more, hit the, as you can guess, More button. In the event you want one of these in your sidebar, you can also select the custom navigation bar at the bottom of the More menu to add the specific items you want to include. So for example, if you are using canvases a lot, you can actually add those to that sidebar and quickly grab them from there. Same thing would apply to any of the other features that you see in this More feature. Our last topic on organizing Slack. It's often a challenge finding old messages and content in Slack. We've already covered some of our tips like save later, but searching in Slack is the most powerful and user-friendly way to find something. We always encourage a search first mentality when working in Slack, and it's actually in our DNA. And what I mean by that is a fun fact that you can tell your friends the next time you see them that are also fellow Slack users is that Slack is actually an acronym. It stands for Searchable Log of All Communication and Knowledge. So the platform is meant to be searched. And more often than not, you'll find what you're looking for by just doing a minor amount of digging. This helps you to quickly get what you need without shoulder tapping your team members and staying on task. So to do this, quickly navigate to the search bar at the top. And there are actually a couple of commands that you can speed this up for you even further. Command or Control G gets you that global keyword search of everything. Command or Control F to search where you are, meaning if you're in a DM or channel. And Command or Control K opens up the quick switcher to quickly navigate instantly throughout Slack. These are a couple of tips that we think will help, again, to simplify your life, make it much more streamlined when using Slack. Now I'm going to hand it back over to Lizzie, who's going to talk more about collaboration.
All right. Thanks, Alex. Great. So now that we've gone over just some kind of initial setup tips and tricks, I'm going to get into a few key ways to work more efficiently, first across teams, and then we'll end this section with just a few shortcuts that will help you navigate around Slack faster. Again, really driving efficiency. Let's get into it. Okay, so the first one that I want to call out is the scheduled send feature. This is truly one of my favorite features. It is so simple, yet so impactful. Basically, when crafting a message, you can schedule it to be sent at a later date. So this is very good for teams that work across various time zones, as you're able to send a message during the recipient's working hours if they don't align with your own. This is obviously, one, shows how courteous you are by not messaging someone when they're not working, and then B, also improves your chances of really getting a response if you send it while they're actually online. At my last company, we were headquartered in Australia. So I had a lot of my leadership team in Australia, and the scheduled send feature was so embedded in our DNA as a company so that we were not messaging each other at all hours of the night and potentially waking up to notifications, but really schedule sending so that it arrived within someone's working hours. Leaders also can use this quite a bit. I know that my leadership does this. If they happen to be working after hours or, even if their team is in the same time zone, if they don't want their teams to feel pressured to respond right away, they can schedule it to be sent the following day during their team's working hours. So again, just a kind of a thoughtful feature, simple, very impactful. So basically to do this, you'll see in the GIF here, but to schedule a message, you type it up. So type up whatever you want to do. It can be either in a DM or in a channel. And then you click the little drop-down menu next to the send arrow, and then choose a day and time for it to be sent. The good thing is you can always review and edit any pending messages that you have. You can find those in the drafts and sent page at the top left of your sidebar. So it will collect all of the scheduled messages that you have, and you can change or edit them at any time before they are sent. Great. On to the next slide, please, Alex. Thank you. Great. So let's talk about reminders. Again, one of my favorite features of Slack. Probably sound like a broken record already. This is yet another thing that I personally use multiple times every single day. We're all incredibly busy, getting pulled in a lot of directions, in meetings on and off all day. And it can be really difficult to keep tabs on what are the things that we actually need to action, especially if you're in a meeting and also simultaneously getting blown up in Slack and a ton of messages coming in. So for those small one-offs, like remembering to give your team a coverage plan for when you're out on PTO for a week, or for any recurring reminders like submitting your timesheet or updating a forecast by the end of the week, the reminders functionality is fantastic. So to utilize this, what you'll do is simply type in /remind into any DM or channel or a DM with yourself, and then either mention yourself or the person in channel and what you want to remind them about and when. So you can also use the /remind list, and that will actually pull up a list of all of your outstanding and past due reminders. Pro tip, just with a lot of commands, I personally like to use this functionality in a direct message to myself. This makes me feel a bit safer so I don't accidentally mistype and maybe send it to a bigger channel where it wouldn't be as appropriate. I like to play around in either a test channel that I've set up for myself or just a DM to myself in Slack. Cool. Fabulous. So another helpful way to use the reminders feature is to set yourself a reminder for a specific message or conversation that you want to circle back to. For example, if you're part of a message thread where maybe some work needs to be done on your own and then you need to go back and report to the team, you can use the remind me about this feature. It's extremely helpful for prioritization of your work. So if you get a request maybe from a colleague or they're asking you, like in this example, Shruti has sent Zoe a report and it requires her to take a look and then respond back with some information or feedback by the end of the week, Zoe can set up a reminder for herself to make sure she comes back to this before the deadline of the end of the week. So she can set herself for either tomorrow, any of the default times, or a custom time by just hovering over the message and clicking the ellipses in the top right of that message. So you then remind me about this and then pick a date from the list or enter a custom date. I use this feature all of the time, and you will get a notification as your reminder time comes up. Cool. So the next two features here I wanted to highlight that fall under our digital HQ or digital headquarters category. So the first is clips. Clips is the ability to record and send a quick audio or video clip in Slack. Now, we use these all of the time at Slack for a multitude of use cases. I would say the first use case that I can think of is when our product and engineering teams release a new feature at Slack. They record a short clip of the feature in action. They explain how it works, what the benefit is that it provides for our whole company to see. And then it's an easy way for anyone at their leisure to kind of read, watch how it actually works, and be able to see the impact quickly on their own schedule. Clips, and this is my favorite feature, have also replaced certain team all hands meetings here, which is really great. So every other month, our team does an asynchronous all hands where the speakers record short clips of what's top of mind. And I'm talking short as in like 2 to 5 minutes max, but what's top of mind. And then the rest of the team can either comment or ask questions in the thread. So clips are great because they're still so personal. It's really just the person talking to you in a quick video, and it can cover some of the more complex topics better than just a basic message in a channel. Like with any other message, everyone can watch them on their own time when they're ready, rather than having to interrupt whatever they're working on to attend a live call, for example. Recording a clip is super easy. So in the message box of either a channel or a DM, you'll just click the little camera or microphone icon to record a video or audio clip. So with video clips, what's cool is that you can share your desktop screen and or have your video, like webcam video on. You can even blur the background or add a background image if you choose. So it's really customizable and feels personal. Clips also have closed captions and transcripts available, which is great from an accessibility perspective. And the cool thing there is that also allows clips to show up in search results based on the text in the transcripts. I find this so helpful if I'm using search to find something, a question that I have, or maybe looking something up for a customer. It'll pull all of the relevant resources, including any clips that have been where the topic that I'm looking for has been discussed. This is super helpful. All right. And then Huddles. Hopefully you all have heard of Huddles and started using them already. But basically, to power the digital headquarters, one of the very first tools that we launched was Huddles. So we launched Huddles to help customers recreate those, lightweight, informal, water cooler type of discussions that they miss in the office. And the cool thing is that customers are using it the way we intended. The median huddle time is 10 minutes. So these aren't replacing, your 30 or 60-minute meetings. They're much shorter in nature. So we've heard that customers they don't like going through multiple apps to start a meeting. They kind of miss that context of a working group when a video conferencing meeting has started. They might lose the notes or work that was actually done in the meeting when it's over. And they feel that video conferencing might feel formal, even if it's a casual conversation with the team. So having to hop to Zoom or a Google Meet or a different application can feel more formal than just kind of a meeting that's already within your flow of work right in Slack. So you can start a huddle from any channel or direct message. I've used this feature probably 3 or 4 times myself just this week, if I count it up, for things such as just quickly talking through a customer challenge with a colleague, having an informal. Yesterday, my team had just an informal team coffee chat to kick off the morning, and it's great because really anyone can easily share their screen. We had background music happening yesterday. You can personalize your settings, like the background. You can can utilize emojis and stickers. And then the really cool thing is that the message thread that's used during the meeting gets saved to a thread in whatever channel or direct message that you started the huddle in. So this is an amazing feature in Slack that can, again, help you become more efficient and feel more connected to a dispersed team. So for example, if you were in a huddle, you're talking about a particular challenge or working through a question maybe that's come up during the day. And then, your colleague that you're huddling with wants to share a particular resource. They can do that right within the thread that you'll see here as shown by the GIF. And then once the huddle ends, that will still be there in whichever channel or direct message that you started that huddle with. So it's always there for you to refer back to. You don't lose any meeting notes or anything like you would in maybe a Zoom or Google Meet. And it's really great that it's so easy to set up and right within the flow of work. Great. All right, Canvas. So if Slack is your productivity platform and the place where work happens, Canvas is really where the information is created, organized, and shared across teams. So Canvas helps you curate information the way you want. So it can supplement that real-time collaboration with more of a permanent place to gather, to organize knowledge for any channel or conversation. You can get context and take action all from one place. So when critical information or context is paired with accessible workflows, people spend a lot less time chasing down information and more time executing. And then the third thing is gaining insights from your apps in a single view. So anyone can integrate dashboards and third-party apps into canvases, which really brings an interactive view of the data employees need to the forefront. The cool thing is, another cool thing about Canvas and kind of how I personally use them most often is creating a shared canvas for each channel that I own, which is an overview of the channel itself, any quick kind of go-to links, information that new members to the channel might want to see, etc. Another use case that I have is anyone that I have regular recurring one-on-ones with. We've created a shared canvas in our direct message. So for example, with my manager, we have our own canvas together, and it contains running shared notes, agenda topics for upcoming one-on-ones, maybe any questions that I might have throughout the week, I can just add to it. And then we have this kind of living, breathing document that we reference during our one-on-one time together. And I can continue to add things off or cross to-dos off all throughout the week, so that by the time I meet with either my manager or anyone else I have a recurring one-on-one with, we have a really solid plan of how we're going to spend our time together. All right. So the other thing here is Canvas really helps you to curate, again, the information the way that you want. So this is the permanent place to centralize all of the knowledge for any particular channel or project. And I love this GIF. I think it does a great job of really animating the power of Canvas and all of the different things that you can put into a canvas to make it as informational, as impactful as possible. So you can customize and collaborate with any sort of text, files, rich media pulled from all different resources, previews and unfurls for files and links. So you can, if it's a particular person that owns this channel, you can just pop their Slack identification picture in it, like you see here, the primary stakeholders. You can deep link to any messages, channels. You can mention people so that the folks that you mention in the canvas, people who are reading it can directly click on their profiles and maybe ask them a question. You can add workflows. There's rich previews for all sorts of things, clips, other canvases, Slack profiles. Really, the opportunities and the options are endless with how to utilize Canvas. Cool. And now how to navigate. So a couple things here that I wanted to just call out. Canvases are not pinned to your sidebar by default. So if you do find yourself utilizing Canvas, what I would do is click the ellipses under More on the left-hand side of your navigation bar. You'll be able to find canvases there. That's how you can access kind of the centralized place for all canvases. And if you find yourself, again, referring to them often, do More and then scroll and then look at Customized Navigation Bar and then click the checkbox for Canvas so that it will always appear on the left-hand side of your sidebar there. You also have the ability to bookmark or star certain canvases and refer back to them later. I do this all of the time. And something that I think one of the better use cases that we've seen or that I've seen recently in Slack is having, for any new hires, having kind of an onboarding canvas for each person of the things that they need to accomplish, first 30 days, first 60 days, first 90 days, that also link out to various resources, whether it's an LMS for training, whether it's, an Excel doc or Google Sheet or whatever it happens to be, to make sure that, within one document, someone has a really good understanding of what the expectations are and then what the different resources are and kind of where to go find things if they have questions during onboarding. I know that was particularly helpful for my own onboarding into this role a while back. I still sometimes reference my Canvas in some of the resources there. Great. I know I just talked a lot. So Alex, I'm going to toss it back over to you to talk about all things automation.
Perfect. Thanks, Lizzie. And so, as she mentioned, next up, we're going to automations. And this is how you can take your work in Slack to the next level. So the core of automation in Slack is through Workflow Builder. And Workflow Builder is as easy to use as Slack itself. It empowers people closest to the work to build automations themselves without requiring an extensive amount of coding knowledge or technical expertise. Plus, you can do it securely on a platform that you already know and trust. We'll go through a couple of common use cases for these shortly, but in its simplest form, think of workflows as step-by-step processes that will automate routine tasks for your team. The good part about this is the power that exists within Workflow Builder. So we've got an extensive step library where you can explore what's possible here. We've got some templates we'll show in a bit. And you can ultimately choose how your workflow kicks off based on the unique ways your team works and what sequence of steps are going to happen from there. Plus, these workflows can be published right to where your team is working. It's kind of a common theme that you're hearing throughout this is that all of Slack's features are really integrated to always be within your flow of work. So teams can easily find and follow the best practices and processes alongside the relevant channels, DMs, and canvases. We have seen some workflows that can be hyper complex, and that's really exciting and something we hope that you guys can grow into, but they also don't need to be necessarily. Think about using them to gather information from the team asynchronously and or to automate routine tasks. A couple of examples: support requests or surveys on how a process worked, welcoming new team members, as Lizzie mentioned, helping with onboarding. Information for team stand-ups, that's a huge one that we use a lot, being able to gather information quickly to streamline our meetings. Sharing best practices. Our customer success organization has actually started this recently where our CSM lead has asked for us just to share any interesting learnings throughout the week. That helps to connect a global team and constantly be ensuring that we are sharing best practices across our organization. As I mentioned, we have a great place to kind of a starting place for you when it comes to workflows. So if you're not sure where to start, we've got you. Slack has a series of templates within Workflow Builder for common use cases that you can use to quickly set up and get going. We're going to talk through how we would go about configuring a workflow now. First things first, we've got to name our workflow. The example that we're going to run through here is a team stand-up. So as you can see in the GIF, it's going to go ahead and start up and begin to create naming something for our team stand-up. From there, we're going to set up where it will live and what event is going to trigger the workflow. In this instance, this is an automated reminder about a team stand-up that's going to occur in a specific channel that is dedicated to that team or project. From there, let's add steps and the output channel. These can be either internal steps or external via connections to approved apps in our library. Think things like Salesforce, Google, Jira, Zoom, even Microsoft Teams. In this example, the team is going to be reminded of what info they need to prep for that stand-up. Once you've tested it, which we highly, highly encourage before going live with it, publish it and let the automation begin. This is a simple example, but there are countless opportunities with Workflow Builder. Get in there and play around with it and see what you can come up with. We're going to pass it back to Lizzie now. She's going to talk about other integrations.
Thanks, Alex. That flew by. All right. Yes. Automations, workflow. If you have not played around with this, there are so many options. And again, the options are endless with doing this. I know when I was leading a big team at my last organization, I would set up a workflow in kind of our team channel at the end of each week to have folks share any learnings that they had through the week or something positive that happened to them this week. And it would just go out every Friday morning. I would also share, reminders to do things like update forecast or any business critical things that needed to happen. It just helped me save time from some of these more repetitive tasks. So highly encourage, to Alex's point, testing first. It's why I play around with things like that in my own personal, Lizzie test channel that I created that's private to only me, where I do some of this tinkering type of stuff, but really encourage checking that out. All right. Bringing other tools into Slack using integration. So some of you are hopefully familiar with this capability, but essentially through next slide, Alex, for me, if you don't mind, thank you so much. So through your organization's app directory, you can bring in whatever your most used applications are right into your flow of work within Slack so that you're not constantly switching back and forth between applications. And what do we mean by this? So if you hop into the app directory, so if you go into your sidebar, scroll all the way down under apps, click on add apps, that will link all of the applications that you can link to Slack. So again, it depends on your organization, but there are a ton of possibilities here. So if you go to the next slide, I included this because this is by far my most used application. It is the Google Calendar integration, and so I know I saw some talk in the chat earlier about the activity and kind of where this goes, and it can be a little annoying sometimes to get a reminder or multiple reminders before every single meeting. I can look into specifics of ways to change that. I am not sure unless Jacob or Alex knows off the top of your head, but I did see that question, so I just wanted to call that out. But this is, I personally find this as my most used application, and other than Google Drive. But for those of you who have not configured either your Google Calendar or Outlook to Slack, do it. A few quick clicks, you'll be able to schedule meetings directly within Slack. You can view your full calendar directly within Slack, get notified before the beginning of your meeting, and then join the meeting right from within Slack. So you never really have to leave Slack in order to do this. And so you can also RSVP to new event invites right within there, which I find really helpful. You can get any updates when an event changes. So you're able to kind of configure what types of notifications you get there. But I find this so helpful. So I'm not constantly having to go back into Google Calendar and do all that. Awesome. The only thing with email integrations that I want to call out here, this is really helpful. And basically what you can do is you can send emails that come in from your inbox to channels or to direct message conversations to keep all relevant conversations together in one place. So you can create a channel email address and forward messages that you get in email to that channel or that DM. This is really helpful if you have, like for Slack, for example, like we have some customers perhaps that are still using email in a lot of parts of their business. We're working on getting them to utilize Slack Connect, but basically what we can do is we can take those emails that we get from customers, forward them to the appropriate account channel that we have internally at Slack. So all of the information that we need is right in the same place. So we don't have to, copy or paste the email into Slack or anything like that. It'll format it nicely and we can put it right there within whatever account channel or DM that is most appropriate. So I wanted to call that out there. That's probably a lesser known feature, but can be really helpful. All right. Lastly, file collaboration. So depending on what applications your organization has, it's really easy to share files from right within Slack. So we use Google Drive most frequently here. I use this all of the time to share When we were putting this deck together, for example, Alex and I were going back and forth. I shared access with Mike and Fred and others directly within Slack. And you can also call out whichever permissions that you want to provide folks that you're sharing these documents with. They'll also include by default a rich preview for the file, which can be really helpful. You'll get notifications right within the Google Drive application, like in the messages section, for any updates, any tags that people have tagged you in, and you can easily find kind of where your file is being discussed, and then create new files directly from within Slack as well. So really, really powerful and impactful integration here. So there's Google Drive, we have Box, we have Dropbox, really whatever you use, but wanted to call this out in the case you had not configured file collaboration with your Slack instance just yet. Great. I will pause for a breath, but that is essentially, that is all, folks. We kind of sped through that. I know we went through a lot of information. Mike, Fred, wanted to kind of pass it off to you. Are there, if there are particular kind of questions or anything that you want to wrap us up here with? I know that there's a lot of follow-up that we can provide folks.